Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Extra Shift. I'm Chris here, as always, with Brendan. How are we going?
Good. Yeah, it's episode 234. We're ticking along here. We didn't quite time it perfectly between round three and the cup final start. And we had a few days, but it just ended up being the worst couple of days that we could have tried to schedule it in. But we're pretty much like 20 minutes after the first game of game one, so it's not too far off.
We're not too far off. Like to pull the curtain back a little bit. Brendan was in my lovely town, and we managed to catch up on Friday, and it was really annoying because there was that other series was one day out. Like we were going to get to watch some hockey, but
yeah, if they managed to win one fucking game, we could have watched some hockey together.
We could have watched some hockey together for a change.
Did not work out.
I get that chance. So, and then obviously like travel and other things kicked in. So, but you're getting us 20 minutes after game one of the Stanley Cup final. Brendan, how much of it did you watch?
Like about 20 minutes of it, maybe.
Yeah, it's
like,
about
I pretty much watched a bit of the third period. Apart from having a busy morning, it's just, I think, not a cup final that a lot of people are super excited about.
There's a nope on my name for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, like
game one was exciting, but
yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it when we get to it. There's other stuff to talk about too.
Yeah, we will get to it, but obviously we are in episode 234. Now normally we go through and again we do the who's the most, with the number, those sorts of things. We pick funny players. I changed it up rather than actually do that. I decided to look up a stat based off one of the names on the list. And I was wondering how many games they played. And I checked and I'm like, oh, they scored a goal, which led me to the idea of how many players that have played reasonable numbers of games have never scored an NHL goal. Now, I said to Brendan about 30 seconds before I hit the button, don't bother to look this one up. I'm going to give you some trivia. So, how many games do you think? I'll give you a ballpark of 5.
Yeah.
The most number of games played without scoring a goal, not counting goalies.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting because I know that years back, I have a vague memory years back that there was someone who'd played like over a season worth, like over 80 worth or whatever, and hadn't like scored a goal. And that's probably pretty fair. My guess is somewhere around the 200 mark.
It's 155.
Okay.
It is appropriate, but it is appropriate to the cup final because it is a member of the Carolina Hurricanes, Stephen Halko.
Oh, okay.
155 games over 6 seasons. 0 goals. None. The interesting one is the person who's number 3 on the list is actually somebody that a name that everyone knows. Number 3 on the list at 120 games is Dallas Eakins.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dallas Eakins played 120 games in the NHL and never scored a goal.
Wow.
Not one. 9 assists.
Yeah.
And a plus-minus of +6 in 120 games. So never scored a goal.
Yeah.
His career playoff stats are fascinating, by the way. 5 games, -1. 4 penalty minutes, 0 shot percentage, no goals, no assists, no points, no hits, no blocks, nothing.
Just a total cardio session.
He was skating around on the ice at some point.
Wow.
That was it. Halko's even better. Halko played 4 games and only had 2 penalty minutes and nothing else.
Well, yeah.
I just thought that was a really interesting stat of the idea of who's played the most games without a goal. And 155, Stephen Halko is the answer to that question. But yeah, there's apparently 50 that have played a reasonable number of games and have never scored.
It's interesting. I mean, was Halko a defenseman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that probably defensemen would be more likely in this stat for sure. But yeah, that's an interesting one.
And the other interesting one, is that Brian Pothier is on the list as well. He played 105 games. Now he scored 20 goals, but he holds the record for the most career games without a power play goal.
Oh, okay.
So it's an interesting little.
So with a lot of people that don't play on the power play though, like it would have to be players who had actually played power play minutes but didn't score a goal.
Yep.
Because there'd be heaps of players that just never play on the power play.
Yeah. The record for the most number of games without a point is Gord Strait, Detroit, 1957 to 1959, who played 61 games. And in the AHL, in the minors, he was 68 games with a 0-3.
It's tricky because, like, at some point you just accidentally lock into like a secondary assist. I think, like,
at some point,
you can pass it to someone else who can do all the work, and then you can get an assist on a goal that you really didn't have anything to do with.
The addition of secondary assists stops the pointless one, but
the
lack of goals, like at some point, the puck's going to hit you. Like it's At some point,
if you're there.
The puck's ricocheting, like it's got to. Anyway, let's move in. So, the Predators have named Chris McFarland as the president of hockey ops and general manager. Now, this was an interesting one because McFarland, there was a whole thing in terms of the Avs did not want to let McFarland talk to anybody. But unlike Vegas, they did. So McFarland becomes president of hockey ops and general manager. Joe Sakic is also now back as general manager in Colorado as a result of this, which was interesting because there was part of you that thought that maybe you might move Sakic up in the organization and give McFarland both roles. But I think that obviously, like, there's a question mark over then, who are they loyal to? I think the answer is they're very loyal to Joe Sakic, and you understand it. But by the same token, like, it probably was an opportunity to maybe move the organization forward a couple of steps and forward plan. Like, you can give Joe Sakic another title. He doesn't need to be, president of hockey ops. He can senior advisor, president emeritus, whatever you want to come up with a name, like just come up with something. But obviously, no, they decided they didn't want to do that. And so McFarland is in Nashville.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of it for Nashville's perspective. I think there's going to be so much is going to really rely on what Nashville plans to do going forward. Like, do they think that they are still competing? Do they think they're rebuilding? I just have no idea what Nashville thinks that they are right now, because they had that weird season where they kind of like slightly outperformed everyone's expectations. They didn't totally bottom out. I hope that they realize that they can't necessarily keep getting away with that, and they're going to have to rebuild at some point.
Well, what I think is really interesting is that Nashville kind of accidentally found themselves in a playoff hunt. It's a weird one because they sort of outperformed expectations, but they weren't good.
No, where did they? They finished like 4 points out of the playoffs. But they're in that murky kind of section with a whole bunch of teams that are in a kind of similar spot with like the Blues and the Jets and the Sharks that are like not quite there.
They're picking 10th in a draft where anywhere in the top 6 is good.
Yeah.
So like, that's kind of probably not the move. You probably wanted to have jumped a bit further. And that's where, and obviously the Sharks got some lottery luck, but like that's the thing. If you wanted to sort of get anywhere in that top 6 to 7, you're probably landing a decent player. So for Nashville, like they almost like they accidentally got decent because they were terrible. Like the start of the year, Steven Stamkos was horrible to start the year.
Yeah, he had a really good run towards the end,
and then decided that he was Steven Stamkos. It was weird.
Yeah. I would say that's kind of indicative of his whole kind of tenure in Nashville, though. Like, he has these kind of invisible stretches and then just, turns it on for like a few weeks at a time where all of a sudden he's scoring like 4 points a game and it's like, oh shit, Steven Stamkos is still around. And then, there'll be a month where he kind of doesn't do much again.
Yeah, it's a weird setup for Nashville. I don't Like the problem for them is like they're in the Central. There's not really space at the top of the Central. Like it's quite crowded. And especially the top two in particular in the Central are off on their own, having their own little arms race. And you just sort of look at it and go, I don't see Dallas or Colorado dropping off anytime soon. You can't imagine the Jets are going to have another year like this year. That would feel like it was a bit weird. Obviously, Utah's been far better than advertised and is going for it. So, like, you don't expect them to be bad. St. Louis, like Nashville. St. Louis and Nashville are very much the same team. It's just that St. Louis have a cup.
Yeah.
But they're the same. They're kind of in that malaise of, are we good? Are we trying to be bad? Do we think we can slightly rebuild this on the fly? What exactly are we? The other thing I find really interesting about this move is that I thought after Barry Trotz they were going to separate out president of hockey ops and general manager.
Yeah.
I thought after the Trotz experiment, I thought they would separate that out. But apparently not. So, like, you know, I'm interested to see because, like, McFarlane has a reputation as somebody who he likes a deal. He will do a deal. He's also used to dealing from a position of strength. And, you know, I don't need to worry about what these picks are because look at who we are. Nashville matters a bit more. So, like, it's a different job trying to build Nashville to building Colorado. So I'm interested to see what that looks like long term. But I think it's a good pickup for Nashville. I just think that we don't know what they are. And look, it's going to be on McFarlane to give them that identity. Like, he will have had that conversation with them in the meetings and gone, this is what I think we need to do.
I imagine we'll probably hear in the near future kind of what their plans are. I don't know if he's actually met with the media yet and I've missed it, but I think that maybe they'll wait till around the draft and depend on how that goes before they kind of give any kind of idea about what. It's probably a big kind of portion about like what deals are available to them. Like, if they have the ability to move like a Stamkos or a Marchessault or a Forsberg or whatever, and what that return looks like, does that change their plans? I don't know.
I think the other problem they've got is in the West. If you've got players who want to play out in the West, obviously you've got Anaheim had the year they had. San Jose has a ton of cap space in the roster they've got, and a clear direction. Chicago's got to get it right at some point.
Yeah.
Like, Chicago can't keep building around Bedard and not quite get it. They've at some point, Chicago's got to do this.
Yeah.
So, like, they've got to make a decision fast because they need to know what they are so that they can make those moves fairly quickly, because there are teams in that West who are coming through and it's about to get more congested. So I think that'll be interesting. Vancouver has hired a new coach, and unsurprisingly to anybody, it's Manny Malhotra.
Yeah.
Now, this is a fascinating hire, not so much for Manny Malhotra, former NHLer, respected in junior coaching circles. It's more interesting because Vancouver has been linked since, they were third.
Yeah.
Vancouver's been linked completely with Caleb Malhotra.
Yeah.
Does this feel like the most obvious a father is going to draft his son?
It feels a bit like that, doesn't it? Like, it's I wonder if it's like, probably there's some element of it as a coincidence, but especially when the name started popping up in like coach search talks, it's just like, well, obviously that seems like the exact move that they would make. I don't know that it's like, I mean, probably, I don't think that it's a terrible, draft pick or anything at that point. But what actual pick does Vancouver have? There's like sixth or something. Oh, third. No, that's too high. That's too high.
It's far too high. Now,
I thought that they were let down lower. That's right. Because that's right. They fell to third.
They were first, and they fell.
Of course.
No. This has been part of the conversation.
Yeah, that feels like a waste.
I was listening to, and we'll talk about Corey Pronman in a minute, but I was listening to the prospect show the other day, and they were discussing the top prospects in this draft. And the Caleb Maholtra, you know, there are things where you can say that Pronman's a bit clickbaity or a bit off the mark. But his point on Caleb Maholtra, and it was backed up by a couple of other people as well, was he had maybe 3 weeks of elite scoring.
Yeah.
And that's all he's ever had in his career, was 3 weeks of elite scoring when his teammates all left. And when they talked about the teams, and they said he's probably the 4th best player on Brantford. Like, he's probably the 4th best player on his team.
Yeah.
But there's that NHL lineage thing that scouts seem to love. This idea of Vancouver wanted a forward, so they'll go and get that forward. And if they can't make a Gavin McKenna, well, then we'll go and get Caleb Maholtra. I don't understand, but I think that's a big swing. Like, I think, especially with look, we'll get into it in a minute, but
okay, so they have the 24th as well. If they can, I mean, like, if they can move up into like the middle of the first round and take him or whatever, I'm okay with that.
They're not doing that.
I don't want.
No, they're taking him third.
Yes, that's
so.
Yeah.
The bizarre thing about there's the comments have come back. Like Pronman was talking about it again the other day, and he said there are people in the league who are questioning that the noise has been so loud around Vancouver picking Maholtra. Is it real, or is this just everyone saying, well, that's what they're going to do? But everyone's kind of convinced that's actually what they're going to do.
It feels the obvious slam for them.
It feels dumb. So I mean,
that's what the Vancouver Canucks do.
Yeah. So while we're in this bit, we'll quickly do some draft stuff while we're here before we move on. So the latest mock by Pronman, he's pulled his head out of his ass and stopped suggesting that the Leafs are going to do something stupid. So Gavin McKenna, he has going first. And then second, he says San Jose's got a decision to make. Obviously, he's got the Sharks taking Chase Reed at 2, which means that number 3 would mean that Vancouver would still pick Caleb Maholtra with Ivar Stenberg on the board.
Yeah, that feels especially bad.
And then if they do that, they've got Chicago basically running to the podium to pick Stenberg to go and play with Connor Bedard. And then Carlson Carroll's to New York, Verhoff to Calgary. See, I've got this flipped around because I think that Keaton Verhoff, if anything said you are a New York Ranger, it's Keaton Verhoff. He's big. Yeah. He's good on a power play. He's like, I think that's it. And then you got Daxon Rudolph, who I don't believe is a real person, to Seattle. And then Albert Schmitz at 8 to Winnipeg, when they would be doing cartwheels.
I think that's the whole thing really in this early part of the draft is how many defensemen are overdrafted. That's really the question, because like everyone that you mentioned, apart from
there's 3.
McKenna,
Maholtra and Stenberg.
And then everyone else, it's just like how long a run on D does it go before anyone else like regains their wits?
I think this has a lot to do with, and this is where I'll be quite comfortable if the Sharks take Reed. I wouldn't, but not because I'd be quite comfortable if they did. But for me, it screams about one of the big issues in the league that we're not talking about, which is defensemen who can defend. They're not a thing. Like, we're getting a lot of all the big name defensemen. They're good on defense, but like, they didn't go out. For example, Minnesota didn't go and get Quinn Hughes because he's a shutdown defenseman.
No.
They went and got Quinn Hughes because he's a defenseman who can quarterback a power play and break you into the zone. Yeah. That's why they got Quinn Hughes. So defensemen who are actually shutdown defensemen who can control the blue line, who can stabilize your team, they're less and less common. So it's almost like teams are overdrafting to compensate for the fact that there's not defense out there. Like, we've heard, we said the other day, like Merrick trying to get Darnell Nurse picked up by everybody.
And it's just honestly not really the game that the way that the game is played now. Like the game is so much more like dynamic that like stay-at-home defensemen are like, I feel like also not something that you need to overdraft. Like so many of those guys who you look at, like and point to as like, oh, these are like the cornerstone like responsible defensemen or whatever. They're all guys who were drafted in like the 3rd round or whatever and took 8 years to develop. Like they're not players who are like getting picked in the top 10 of drafts.
So the other thing I said to you was, don't look it up, but the Athletics draft rankings in terms of players. So they have a group of 5 players as top of the lineup players. Do you want to have a guess where McKenna is and where Stenberg is in the 5?
In the Athletics
ranking on the players.
Is this, so this is the most recent one, and so this is not the Promen one. This is a separate, like, who is writing this up?
Oh, this is Promen.
Oh, okay.
This is Promen.
All right. Well, I mean, he had been like, surely he's like coming to his senses. I think you mentioned like, is McKenna back to number 1? 4.
McKenna is 4. Stenberg is 5.
What the fuck?
He has Chase Reed first.
Oh my god.
He has Albert Schmitz second.
Okay.
And Keaton Verhoff as 3rd.
All this proves to me is that no one has any idea which defenseman is better.
He says that Albert Schmitz is the second best player in the draft, and then he has him going 8 to Winnipeg.
Yeah, I don't really understand the fact that everyone is so varied on like where all these defensemen are, who's better than who. Like, tells me no one has any fucking clue.
No one's got a clue. This is a draft genuinely where I think everyone is clueless. I don't think anyone knows what the hell they're talking about. Like, I've heard people try to tell me that McKenna is a better player, but the upside for McKenna is so much better. But right now, you really want to have Stenberg. But McKenna might be much better than Stenberg, and Stenberg might not get any better than this. But we don't quite know. I was like, well, hey, what? So if Stenberg's not going to develop that much, you don't think, but you think McKenna is, then why is Stenberg in the top 5 conversation? Like, surely if he's not going to develop past what he already is now, then why would you take him? Like, he's not. It's weird. Like, the way that they're grading these players is bizarre. And like, I think in the same podcast, I can't remember who it was, but someone said, I've watched a lot of these players. I can see a pathway to McKenna scoring 100 points in a season. I can't see one for Stenberg.
Yeah.
Now, if that's supposed to be the second best offensive player in the draft, and someone who you think the Leafs might consider ahead of McKenna, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, I thought that this was really easy. Like, this should be straightforward. You've watched these guys forever. But as was also said in that podcast, and I think it was the most accurate thing they said in the whole thing, you can talk yourself out of so many of these players. And they said, in particular, Gavin McKenna, they said he's got so much upside and he has so much potential, but you can talk yourself out of McKenna because he had that one little bumpy patch.
Yeah.
But they said it's also easier to talk yourself into McKenna than anybody else. It's a weird draft year. I don't know what San Jose is going to do. I'm also at a point where I would be quite happy if the Sharks go out and get themselves a top line defenseman. Trade 2.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy. Like, if the Sharks go out and land themselves a top line defenseman, no Oilers fans, his name is not Darnell Nurse. And no Leafs fans, it's not Morgan Riley. No, it's not. But if the Sharks go out and land themselves a top defenseman, I'd trade 2.
Yeah.
Like, I'd happily trade 2.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. Look, I think the thing with drafting defensemen high is just such a crapshoot. I just don't know that there's been a real proven kind of link between, star players and being at D and being drafted high. Like, if you look at, like, if the kind of player that they're talking about, like, oh, this could be like the next, like, Jacob Slavin or someone. I just looked up. Jacob Slavin was taken at pick 120 in 2012, to the end of the 4th round. And I think that you'll find that most of the, like, defensive, like, responsible defensemen in the NHL are all like 2nd to 4th round picks. Like, I think that there's probably there's probably a better chance that the best defenseman that comes out of this 2026 draft was drafted in the third round than there is that they were drafted in the top 5.
I find it really interesting, all the talk about the defense and they need better defense. The Sharks need better defense. The first conversation point about Chase Reed is that he'll quarterback their power play for the next 10 years. That's not like that's when do we get to the point where that was the conversation? The conversation is we need the defenseman. Why? Someone's got to quarterback the power play.
Yeah.
Anyway, Brendan Gallagher was talking. He basically said that he's played his last game with the Habs. He was obviously scratched for large stretches during the playoff run. He did mention Vancouver, but he mentioned Vancouver after somebody said, "Would you like to go to Vancouver?" So, like, he has control. Obviously, he's got a no move, so the Habs will, and you get the feeling the Habs would play nice with Brendan Gallagher anyway. Like that's I don't think that's a question.
There's some weird stuff going on with Montreal and not playing players too. Like Patrick Laine also talked to the media and said he was healthy after like the new year and just essentially just wasn't played. He's now like a UFA. Like at this point in time, I think he's no longer under team control, but pretty much just couldn't get back in the lineup. So I guess they've got something that I think is working. It clearly worked for them to the point that they got them into the conference finals. So that's something. I'm curious to see what kind of is in the future for both of their careers, whether they get a chance on another team or not.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm really interested to see. I think there's a few, like Brendan Gallagher is one of those players that, again, I look like Vancouver. Obviously, he's mentioned that. I look at San Jose as well. Again, I know it's me, but I'm not talking about just San Jose. Like San Jose or the Blackhawks or one of those teams where you just need that little bit of veteran presence, but someone who can play, not veteran presence of, somebody standing in the corner and going, rah, 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 be a veteran. I don't know who I could be talking about, but we scratched him for most of the season, thank God. But I think one of those sorts of younger teams would be really good to have that sort of cheerleading player on. And I mean, that's kind of what the Sharks did with Toffoli. They went and got a veteran player, but a veteran player who is still very much able to play.
Yeah.
The Norris voting was fascinating. Now, Zach Werenski won the Norris in what is not a shock. That was easily called. Some of the votes are fascinating. Somebody boldly in a year where he didn't play at all gave Adam Fox a 5th place vote.
I would be shocked if that wasn't a New York rider.
A New York rider. Look, unfortunately, poor Brooksy's gone, because if Brooksy wasn't gone, it's Brooksy.
Yeah.
Then Matthew Schaefer was interesting because Matthew Schaefer got 3/4 and 5/5. I thought the Schaefer probably would have had a few more.
Yeah, interesting one. Given like
how far away you won the Calder.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I think that it probably speaks a little bit more to like the top of those rankings in terms of like how many players were just like you had to have Werenski and Makar on your ballot basically, and then it's really just a matter of who you put third.
I love that Quinn Hughes with all of his moves and stuff like that, like 7th.
Yeah, I would have thought that he would be, in that discussion, especially for what he did with changing, kind of Minnesota's like trajectory.
I wonder if the voting, and this is we've joked around a bit about the Norris, and the Norris tends to be not so much the best defenseman as the best offensive defenseman. In a lot of cases, that the year that EK65 won of the Sharks, that was pure Brett Burns' campaigns. They were all built off the idea of points, right? Not so much defense. I wonder,
which is usually the case.
I wonder if at the moment what we're not doing is the top of the ballot is for the scoring defenseman, and then 3rd, 4th, 5th is where they put what they consider to be the good defensive defenseman.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, there's been talk about like, do we need a separate, trophy for defensive defensemen in the same way that we have like the Selke for forwards? Maybe there's a place for the more kind of, two-way defensive defenseman kind of aspect of it. This is probably something that Slavin would win, pretty regularly. But it's an interesting discussion. I don't necessarily ascribe to the idea that defensemen have to be defensive for focused kind of. I think that there's a lot that from the back end a defenseman can add to puck movement and to the overall kind of success of the team, which keeps the puck out of your net because the other team doesn't have it. There's a lot to be said about that. But shutdown defensemen, obviously, it's not a dead art form. That certainly exists, and there's still a place for shutting down other teams.
I mean, it's one of those things. When I was coming through in soccer, one of the first things we were ever the conversation we ever had was, who's your best defenseman on the team? The centre back, or maybe the left back, or the right back, or whatever. Or I was a goalkeeper, best of defense. And they went, right, you've gone 1-0 up. Who's the best defenseman? Like, what? It says the forward who put the ball in the back of the net. Why? Yeah. You're 1-0 up. That's the best defense. You're leading. And it's a bit the same with like points and stuff like that. If you've got a defenseman who can keep the puck out of your zone completely, that's probably the best bit of defense. You're not defending deep. It's not someone who blocks on the goal line all the time. It's someone who stops the puck getting anywhere near it.
Yeah.
So I understand that. Team Finland defeated Team Switzerland to win the 2026 IIHF World Championships. Norway wins the bronze in what I'm assured by people in the Australian NHL fans page is another example of bias against Canada. And Canada is clearly being shafted. Get rid of the draft lottery. We're being screwed. Look, Canada doesn't go to these things, the Worlds, to win them. They take
no, I mean, it's such a weird tournament. I was talking to a friend who got into hockey recently about this, like the fact that the IIHF World Championships is always on during the NHL playoffs, and it's really just the teams are just made up of whoever's NHL team didn't make it, or got eliminated really early, and then those players end up possibly
want to go hang out.
Yeah, want to go hang out for a few weeks in wherever this is on, and then the country actually think that there's a kind of a benefit to the countries who don't have a heap of NHL players, because they're always kind of playing a team that is familiar with each other and has actually been like playing together for a long time, and they're not waiting on someone to be eliminated for someone to turn up and like help out their team. That said, obviously like the top end, like if there wasn't NHL playoffs on or whatever, Team Canada looks very differently than Team Canada does in this scenario. Yeah. It's just a total crapshoot of which players are available. Yeah. And it was cool to see Macklin Celebrini and Sidney Crosby play together. That's really all I took out of it.
That was all that tournament was for, was so Macklin and Sid play together. That's
that's pretty much it. I don't really care for
it. To melt down about Sid. Don't you talk to my son like that.
I will be right back. For some reason, someone is at my front door.
Okay, Brendan will go off there, but while he's going there, my highlight of the World Championships was very much the case of you had a situation where you had social media sort of took off with these Macklin Celebrini and Sidney Crosby edits. So their photos together, them on the ice, Sid smiling. My favorite one was the three on the bench and Celebrini and Crosby sitting on the bench together yelling onto the ice. That was one of my favorite ones. And again, it had very much, don't you dare talk to my son like that again. So like, that was what everyone was there for. Everyone was there for Sid and Macklin, and like, Sid didn't take the captaincy back off Macklin. Sid was never going to take the captaincy back off Macklin. Like, they're going to have to transition that at some point. And I did actually say to Brendan, we'll talk about it on Friday actually, and I said to him at the time, I was thinking about it, and for the next Olympic Games, we could actually find ourselves in a situation where Connor McDavid is not the first line center for Canada, which is not saying Connor McDavid is crap before everyone comes at me. But we are far more likely to see something like, for example, Celebrini and Bedard as the top two centers, with McDavid freed up playing on a wing. Like, that would make a lot more sense, because you could use McDavid far more effectively without him having to anchor the line. So we could actually get.
It'll be interesting to see for sure. Like, as we get to the back end of some of these players' careers, what
it feels like, and it also feels like Canada doesn't want to have to make. They don't make a lot of captaincy changes, So I feel like the Celebrini move from Sid is probably I don't feel like they're going to go to McDavid. I feel like they might leave it on Celebrini and just go, that's our long-term captain, and we're just going to do this as a long-term move. We don't like changing captains regularly. Macklin's probably more likely to want to play than Connor. So I feel like they're probably going to do something like that. And again, that's not a slight against Connor fans. I'm not slighting him, but I just feel like that's might be where they head just because.
Yeah.
The Montreal victory won the 2026 Walter Cup. That was quite a I watched a fair bit of Walter. I've almost watched more Walter Cup than I did Stanley Cup, to be blunt. Marie-Philippe Poulin, like, she wins the Alana Kloss trophy for the MVP of the playoffs. Richly deserved. There are a couple
well deserved. For a few of the
there are a couple of
highlights
games
that I saw were pretty incredible.
A couple of games in those playoffs where, like, there was the one which was the long overtime game, and Marie-Philippe Poulin just sort of looks, and you can just see her have a moment of, we're going home, and she just goes and does it. She's like, no, we're going home. I'm done with this. We are done. She's by far and away the best women's player on the planet. Genuinely, still the best player on the planet. In sad news, obviously the passing of Claude Lemieux at 60. He, after a long struggle with CTE, obviously the algorithm doesn't like certain words on YouTube, but he unfortunately died, it appears, by his own hand. Just really shocking because of the fact that, like, on the Monday he was lighting the torch at the Habs game. Still very active as a player agent. Again, he's Freddie Anderson's agent. He's very active still within the league. He was missing the other day. He went down to the furniture shop that he runs. His son called the police after he was non-responsive and they couldn't get hold of him, and they went down to the furniture store, and unfortunately he was found there. Now, the positive out of this is that his family immediately released a statement saying that, in line with his wishes and the wishes of the family, that his brain would be released for research into CTE, which is vital. Like, all of these things, and there's a lot of athletes. There's a lot of athletes that have signed, already written in their will. It's already written in there that they would like their brains donated after they die, so that they can study what the impacts on brain and head injuries are. But especially with the way he played the game, it's probably, sadly, not a shock with the CTE.
Yeah, it's tough. Look, I think a lot of people from that generation of playing, unfortunately, have had a lot of difficulty post career with the resulting trauma that their body went through playing in those ways, and it's good to see that at least there is some research and breakthroughs and things that are starting to happen, but there's still a long way to go with the the kind of impacts of head trauma on people, and just the terrible kind of impact it has on their life after they have to try and spend the next 40 to 60 years of their life after they finish playing trying to just live a normal life.
The work that Chris Nowinski and his institute do is just outstanding. Like, genuinely, the work they're doing, and always trying to come up with new ways to make sure they can get information before people die as well, and like help out as much as they can. To transition, it's very hard to do, but to Gary Bettman, a man who has spent years denying that CTE was a problem. He gave his annual State of the NHL address, where, of course, he did not address anything that people wanted to talk about.
Really does.
He instead talked about the new 3-on-3 tournament for All-Star Weekend, which is a bit bizarre because it's the Four Nations.
Yeah.
Like,
it's an odd one. I don't know that anyone was asking for this necessarily. I mean, it was fun.
According to Gary, everyone was asking for this.
Yeah,
everyone loved the Four Nations, so why don't we do it for the not for the All-Star game?
Yeah.
There's a $2 million prize for the winning team.
I guess. I mean, it feels unnecessary, like for like to split that 11 ways for players who are like how many of these players are not already earning 5 to 10 million on their
At the
contract?
All-Star game, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that. So let's go through who's likely to be on the Team Canada team. Connor McDavid, Macklin Celebrini, who will probably by that point have signed his new deal.
Contract? Yeah.
Yeah, like just those two alone before you then start rattling everybody else off. Austin Matthews for the Team USA, like you're not like $2 million. It's not much.
I'd kind of just prefer to see it donated to a charity, to be honest. Like,
I kind of really see. The funniest part is like baseball. One of the things that baseball did get right, they got a lot of things wrong because they had the draw of not playing against teams in the other side and the other conference until the playoffs, which was a big draw, and it actually diluted the fan bases when that started to happen. But one of the things they got right was with their All-Star game, they made the All-Star game worth something by the winner of the All-Star game gets home field advantage during the World Series. So whichever side wins the All-Star game, whoever won, the team that represents that conference in the World Series has home field. Right? I like that because you're playing for something tangible. Like there's something behind it. Whereas the NFL's gone the other way and like nobody turns up to NFL. The NFL's All-Star game is an absolute joke. It became flag football on a beach in Hawaii. Like, literally.
Yeah, I mean, we're not that far from it. Like we every year we see players just take the punishment for being like, actually, I just don't. I'd rather just.
I kind of feel like they should just expand the skills contest out and make it 2 days of skills.
Yeah.
If you do 2 days of skills too, that probably appeals more to the sort of the social media side of it. So the players can rock up. They don't have to be that committed. If they do a bit of skills stuff, they compete in all these little events. And, if you want to make it a points thing where they compete for money at the end of it, sure. But I think that the answer is you just do the skills. And look, the players will compete for their own money. I'm not saying how. But they will. We've all seen Michael Jordan's Bulls documentary. We know how Michael Jordan made extra money in the locker room. I think that's what they'll do. We'll put money on whoever can beat Connor McDavid in a sprint. Good luck. So Canada, US, Finland, and Sweden look cool.
I guess, it's fine.
The decentralized draft format is not changing. The seeding for the playoffs not changing. Ron Hainsey, who was there to represent the PA, said that no one's really asked about it. It's not really a needle mover. Neither of those things within the players is a needle mover. No one particularly cares about where the draft format is. They said unless a team complains really hard, they're going to keep decentralized draft. The playoff seeding, they said nobody's complaining about it, which is really interesting because the fans, if you believe the fans, they'll tell you that everybody's complaining about it. But
it's an interesting one. I mean, I guess it's not something that teams really want to like kick up a big fuss about, but every year there is certainly teams that miss out on the playoffs based on the playoff format, and I can't imagine that those teams aren't a little bit upset about it. I don't know that they they obviously they know the format coming into it. They know like the reality. Maybe it's just they just know that there's no point. There's nothing that's going to come of it if they complain about it. So why bother?
Yeah, I also wonder like how many of them their mentality is, well, I mean, like, if we can't manage to win our way in or we can't manage to win our playoff game because we're drawn against a hard team, well, we can't win the cup. So like you've got to beat who's in front of you. And I think more than any other sport, I think the NHL has a little bit more of that built in where players are like, well, I didn't beat what was in front of me. So I feel like that's probably less complaining about that. AHF softened its stance on Russia a little bit. They haven't welcomed them back yet, but they're sort of cracking the door open to maybe do that. Gary was asked about Russia and the NHL, and their answer is, we're just keeping an eye on it. We don't know what they're doing, but we're just watching. And the succession planning for Gary Bettman is apparently in the works. They're talking about it at the end of year meeting, but as Gary also said, I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere, nor should he be at a young, chipper, checks notes, 74. He's already the longest. I mean, obviously he's the first commissioner, but he's the longest serving commissioner / president ever. And, one of the longest serving president before that has a trophy named after him because he was there for that long.
Yeah.
So, he's out.
Are we ready for the Bettman Trophy to be announced when he does retire?
1st of February 1993, with Gary Bettman's arrival in the league. Yes, there's a lot of you listening to this podcast right now that Gary Bettman has been in charge of the league longer than you've been alive.
What do you think the Gary Bettman Award would be in the NHL? Like if they announce a trophy? Yeah.
Biggest expansion fee paid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the biggest expansion fee paid. Most non-committal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like the most booed during the season player. Maybe that's
most words said in press conference without saying
without making a point. I mean, that's a tough one. That would, given the amount of interviews of just getting one game at a time, playing full 60 minutes, pucks in deep, that you get, like, there's got to be some fierce competition for that one.
I mean, the latest one of those is you just start taking shots at Toronto, even when there's nothing involved in Toronto going on. Can you say that just before we're about to move on to the playoffs and stuff? But just quickly, that was the weirdest press conference response I think I've ever seen. Was Kent Hughes in Montreal for absolutely no reason just decided to light Toronto up. Like, there was nothing. They weren't mentioned. They weren't involved, and he just lit Toronto up like it was a firework. And I'm like, where did that come from? Signings. There's only really one signing to talk about. Gino is back in Pittsburgh, so sorry to all you people suggesting that Sidney Crosby will be traded, because Gino's back, and that's not happening.
No, I mean, obviously, this is. I'm glad to see it, even if I don't think there was any chance that Malkin was going to retire. I think there were some people that kind of expected that. I don't know why. Like, given he had a really good season. Yeah, he had a really good season. He was always gonna play somewhere. It made perfect sense to bring him back, given that there is 1 year left on Crosby's contract. He was one of the best players on the team this past season. I don't see, he wasn't going to, cost a lot. He ended up coming in at 1 year at 5.5, which is the lowest he's been on for some significant time in his contract, and I think he's still worth it. There is a bunch of bonuses loaded into that contract, though. However, there's a couple of 500,000 bonuses based on games played, which he'll probably hit both of unless he has a lengthy injury. He usually is injured for up to 15 to 20 games in the season. That's kind of just who he's been for a long time. But I think off the top of my head, I think it's about 60 something games or whatever to get both of those bonuses. So it probably will go up a little bit. But then all of the rest of the bonuses are based on whether they make the playoffs and whether they win playoff rounds. If it can go up to a total of like 9 million. If that happens, it means that they won the cup. So I'm sure that they'll be totally happy with that. And the reality is that the Penguins have almost the most cap space in the league coming into next season. And even if he actually hits that 9 million, they still won't hit the cap. So it's really a non-point.
Yeah, look, as I said, makes perfect sense, and they had to bring him back. Really, there was he would have played elsewhere.
I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see another year of Sid and Gino playing together. It'll be interesting to see what happens next year, because it sounds like Crosby's not done. He intends to play for a few more years in the league once this next year is up in his contract. So we'll see if there's a Crosby extension in the next few months, or at the
Sid's got to go play with his son.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to probably largely depend on what the Penguins are this coming season. Of the three of them, of Malkin, Crosby, and Letang, who have been playing together now for something like 22 years, the one who fell off this year was Letang, which was a little bit surprising because he has always been a fitness freak and a real player who has kind of kept himself in great condition, given despite his like injuries and health issues. But I think he's going to have to make some adjustments to the way that he plays the game, as he's just not really able to do what he used to do anymore. So I think that's the one, like of all of them, like people talking about like, oh, you've got to get rid of like Crosby. Like Crosby and Malkin is still good and still well worth their contract. There's no point in trading them just to bottom out with this team or whatever. The one of those three who's not really pulling his weight anymore, unfortunately, is Letang, who's on the longest deal.
I wonder if how much that, especially his health, with the heart stuff. I think that probably has impacted him badly. All right, let's go to the darkest timeline.
Part of it's just decision making. I think if he can kind of choose to play in a slightly more conscientious way, he'll probably be better.
He can't.
He can't. No, right. It's not him.
Let's go to the darkest timeline. So, the Golden Knights sweep the Colorado Avalanche, who decided that everyone was playing on one leg. Well, Colorado didn't really ever wake up in this series. They were sleepwalking. They were injured. They were like, again, their excuses. Vegas beat them. Like Mana was good. Their offensive play was great. Notorious liar, Brett Howden is scoring goals. So, look good for him. But, there's not really too much to say about this series other than
a disappointing performance from the Avs, really. Like
the Avs were never at the races. Like Vegas got out early and that was kind of it. And
the wheels kind of came off for them.
Vegas have a habit of scoring in clumps. And we saw that today. But they do. They have this habit of they score in like they don't get one, they get three. And it's been three across the playoffs. It's been batches of threes. So, they did that a few times in the series. So, like the Avs, there's a lot of conversations around what's going to go on with Bednar. Are they going to get rid of him? Are they not going to get rid of him? I think it's much of a muchness to get rid of him. I don't think it changes a hell of a lot. I think the only thing you can argue is that this is a team that should have got over that hump a lot more than it has, given the skill and how it goes in regular season. So you might need to do something there, but beyond that, it is what it is. I think they'll be back. I think they'll be just as good as they were for next season, regardless of what they do. I don't think they're dropping off a cliff anytime soon. But I think you saw the example of, and we saw it a bit with, we talked about the Oilers and what happened with Draisaitl and McDavid both being hurt, and Makar and McKinnon were both not right. Makar was really not right. Like McKinnon was injured, but Makar was not right in any way, shape, or form. And like they threw him out really when it was desperate. Like he didn't start the series. He didn't play the first game. Wasn't gonna play the series ideally if they could rest him. But they were just defensively they were caught napping. They were caught lacking. The secondary scoring for the Avs just forgot what they were supposed to be doing. Marty Natchez, who's had a really good playoffs up to this point, did not have a good series. Kadri didn't have a good series. Nobody had a good series for Colorado and Vegas. Again, Mitch Marner was great. So was and again the other thing is too, Mitch Marner was great. Mitch Marner's got all the headlines, and we both agree on this. Jack Eichel serves that team.
Yeah,
it's Jack Eichel. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Mitch Marner is getting all the credit at the moment, and he should get a lot of credit. But Jack Eichel is and Mark Stone still guide that team. It's their team. Marner is the finish, but they guide it. The other side of the draw, the Habs made the Hurricanes bleed their own blood. That was a mistake. And then the Hurricanes came back and just... It was really weird. Even after the Hurricanes lost the first game in that series, at no point did I think the Hurricanes were going to lose the series.
No.
And then from game 2 onwards, they got better and better and better as the series went on. They're a good team.
Yeah, I think I think it says something about a team that you can watch things kind of not go their way, but you can see them kind of adapting. You can see them learning and adjusting to to that. And I think that once they kind of worked out what the Habs were doing, they managed to overcome that. Even in like even in like those games 2 and 3 where like the score was close, like the play was never really close. It was the Habs getting outshot like 2 or 3 to 1 most of the time, managing to like sneak in like a sneaky goal or whatever, and the Hurricanes just went, well, we'll just keep going, we'll put 60 shots on them, we'll score 3 goals and we'll win. Like that's kind of what it is. Like, as much as like the total of the shot differential was heavily in the Canadians in the Habs favor. Oh, sorry, no, in Carolina's favor. The Habs were blocking an absurd amount of shots too. So realistically, like probably they were getting outchanced significantly more than that over the course of the series, and just eventually, they couldn't get in the way of every puck, and the Hurricanes just kind of rolled over them.
The dam was always going to burst, and we talked about that a lot. And game 4, the dam burst, and Dobish could not keep the puck out of the net.
No,
like again, he'd made an incredible number of saves.
Yeah, I mean, props to him for keeping them in it this far. Like the fact that they even got to this series is really on him.
And it's really interesting because what I will say is that everyone's the Habs. And the second they lost the series, even the Habs were like, "We're not close yet."
Yeah,
we're not close yet. There's a gulf. There is a massive gulf between where we are and where everyone else is. We've got to get there. Which at least is a bit more promising than the last time they were in this position where they decided they were the greatest team ever and became last in the league the next year. Which leads us to our cup final, which obviously game 1 today, Vegas wins 5-4. If I'm the Hurricanes, I feel good about that. It sounds weird to say that. But
yeah,
the Hurricanes went out to the lead. Vegas scored
strong. They started pretty strong. Like it looked that first period from the bits that I saw and what I kind of read about that they were the stronger team at the beginning. Obviously, then as you mentioned, Vegas comes back and scores 3, and then all of a sudden there's a game in it, and it's a tight one. But that game could have gone either way. I don't think that it's really any indicative that that the Hurricanes won't adjust in the same way.
I think the difference is I think that the Hurricanes have adjustments in them.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened. Remember, the same thing happened for the game 1 with the Habs. Like the Habs won that game, scored a lot of goals, and the Hurricanes went away, and the Hurricanes reorganized and replanned and reset up and came out and just gradually did what they do and ground down the Habs. And the Golden Knights would be a harder prospect than that. But the Hurricanes, I think the Hurricanes can make more adjustments here. So I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm not happy with Thomas Hertl scoring the winner. Boo. One of the Sharks journos, Max Miller, made a comment the other day. Oh, won't it be so good for everyone to be able to cheer on Thomas Hertl? And you've never seen a fan base turn so hard on a journalist they like in your life. He had to post 3 follow-up statements. I know they're horrible. I know they have that player in goal. I know they have that player on ice scoring goals. Notable liar Brett Howden. And so they've got all of these things happening there. And he's like, I mean, we all love Hertl. And I was like, he went to the enemy. He went to Vegas. He went to the Evil Empire.
He's dead to us.
Timeline. He is dead to us. That team needs to lose. And it's a weird one because I think outside of really the Vegas fans, everybody else in the league wants Vegas to lose this cup final.
Yeah.
Right. They're just
there's not a lot of neutral fans who are going for Vegas at this point.
They've decided to steer into the Evil Empire thing. Like they've deliberately decided to turn into the Evil Empire. Especially with things like the coaching stuff, all of that sort of thing. So like, and they keep Kelly McCrimmon and that keep lying, like when they do press conferences. No, he's perfectly fine. He's comfortable with the fact that he's not coaching at the moment. Bruce Cassidy does a podcast and goes, he understands it. Cassidy does a podcast. I don't understand it. First thing he says.
Yeah.
I don't understand why I can't coach. They're like, he knows, he understands. He goes, I don't understand.
I don't get it.
So I'm tipping Carolina in 6.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how I feel about it too. Like it was always going to be a tougher series than a lot of the other ones that Carolina has run into at this point. I think that there's gonna be some back and forth in this one for sure. They're both strong teams, but I still like Carolina's chances. I still think that they're the better team of the two. Despite this today, I think still Carolina in 6.
Yeah, I think it'll be Carolina in 6. It'll be a hard series, but I just feel like the adjustments that they have the ability to make are more than what Vegas. I think Vegas is what Vegas is, and again, I just have to trust that karma is going to help. It has to.
Yeah, I can't hope so.
I don't want to be here talking about noted liar, Howden. Anyway, on that bombshell, we're going to go. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for watching. Please like, please share. We will be back when we have a winner. Hopefully,
fingers crossed.
Hopefully it's not a horrible thing. But we will talk to you all later.
See ya.